Police gearing up for increased traffic on Mandela Highway in the event call for a boycott of Portmore Toll gathers steam. 3 people dead following shooting and motor vehicle mishap in Westmoreland. Supreme Court grants injunction barring Jamaica Agricultural Society from holding annual general meeting. New highly transmissible COVID-19 strain raising concern among scientists as it spreads in the US and India. And in business news, Jamaica can now utilize central bank digital currency Jamdex. Commanding Officer for the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Assistant Commissioner Gary McKenzie, says his officers are prepared for increased traffic along the Mandela Highway in the event the call for the boycott of the Portmore Toll Road gathers steam. It was business as usual along the Portmore Toll Road today, despite the call for a 3-day boycott of the thoroughfare due to the increased toll rates for Highway 2000 east-west. The new rates took effect on Saturday. Speaking with Radio Jamaica News, ACP McKenzie said he did not receive a report of the boycott of the toll road, but he says he understands the response of persons to limit their use of the thoroughfare.
Whenever there is an increase of anything, there is the tendency for persons to see how best is to avoid it, because sometimes persons make plans and they budget, and so the Nelson Mandela Highway is one of the roads that will benefit from greater volumes of traffic because of that increase. But gradually, what will happen is that persons will now then plan and be able to utilize it after some time. And so it is reasonable, and we expect that we may see a little greater volume of traffic.
Commanding Officer for the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Assistant Commissioner Gary McKenzie, and a motorist from Portmore who joined the boycott of the toll road today, said the traffic on the thoroughfare also included persons outside of the municipality. She expressed disappointment that more motorists did not join the protest.
I wasn't expecting so many traffic to be going into that direction this morning, but most of the persons that are using the toll is not really from Portmore, These are persons from out of town, and because they want to get from point A to B, that is why they're using the toll. But Portmore people are feeling it. We are definitely feeling it. We cannot afford it.
A motorist from Portmore. The Supreme Court this morning granted an application for an injunction barring the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, from holding its annual general meeting, which was scheduled for Wednesday. A court hearing will be held on October 5 to discuss the row which led to the injunction being sought. On Friday, Radio Jamaica News reported that tensions had escalated in the JAS, with one of the members taking the organization to court. Ian Hill, a delegate from Western Jamaica, last week applied for the injunction arising from a bitter internal dispute over the non-election of officers, the procedure for election, and the postponement of previous annual general meetings due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the application, Mr. Hill and others claim that as an incorporated body, there is a procedure which must be followed every year for the meetings and the election of officers. He argued that this was breached, and the decision this year not to elect officers is unconstitutional. When contacted a short while ago, JAS President Lenworth Fulton reacted to today's ruling.
So both parties, the Jamaica Agricultural Society and Mr. Ian Hill, who brought the injunction, will go back on October 5 for a decision from the judge. So we just have to wait until October 5.
Jamaica Agricultural Society President Lenworth Fulton. Testimony continued today in the case involving mining company Windalco and the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, regarding the discharge of effluent into the Rio Cobra in St. Catherine 2 years ago. The prosecution's first witness resumed giving evidence in the St. Catherine Parish Court. The discharge caused a fish kill in October 2019. There were also reports that some residents in Kent Village in St. Catherine suffered respiratory illnesses due to the discharge. Some of the residents who gathered outside the courthouse today complained that the community has not recovered from the devastation caused by the effluent. One of the residents, Daniel Gale, told our news team that efforts to replenish the fish stock have been unsuccessful.
And now the river don't come back to normal as well, because one time we used to go to the river and catch fishes. Now a big ticky fish we catch back right now, because the fish them throw back in the river. They can't survive after them one in the river because they're not getting any feeding. Because you know the fish them that they are throwing back is the one them like the lab fish them we work off of the bag feeders. So when you go to the river, be a little ticky I catch. And
when you say ticky, you mean like
small fish. Yes, so no one want those fish to buy. So right now, we the people in the community will left stranded right now.
Daniel Gale, a resident of Kent Village in St. Catherine. 3 people are dead following a shooting and a motor vehicle mishap in Grange Hill, Westmoreland yesterday evening. One of the deceased has been identified as 46-year-old Houghton Stewart, a farmer of Mailsfield Mountain in Grange Hill. Mr. Stewart was shot when he stopped to pick up his girlfriend along the Jerusalem Mountain Main Road about 7:30. It's reported that he exited his car and upon re-entering, a man approached and pointed a gun toward his head. A tussle ensued between Mr. Stewart and the gunman, during which an explosion was heard. The gunman fled on a motorcycle. Mr. Stewart sped off but lost control of the vehicle, which hit several persons who were at a grave digging. Mr. Stewart was found slumped over the steering wheel with a bullet wound to the face. He was pronounced dead at hospital. 2 of the persons at the grave digging later died. A construction worker was shot and killed last night in Clonmel St. Mary. He's been identified as 65-year-old Valentine Moore. About 9:30, Mr. Moore and the owner of a bar and gaming lounge were having drinks when a man armed with a gun entered the establishment. Both men were shot. Mr. Moore died at the scene while the proprietor has been hospitalized in critical condition. This is the 26th murder in St. Mary since the start of 2022. Another call has come for the socialization of boys to be equal to girls, as the stark difference has resulted in the gap in male and female educational performance. The discussion has been reignited following the release of the results of this year's primary exit profile exams, which showed that female students outperformed their male counterparts. More girls than boys achieved a proficiency in mathematics, language arts, science, and social studies. Speaking today on the morning agenda on Power 106, President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Lincoln Wright, said too many areas which could stimulate interest in learning for boys are considered feminine and therefore bad for them.
Children have to come to school with a particular kind of approach to learning. They have to come to school with what I call the social capital, right? And it's not my term, it's something that came out of research too. And if it is that, for example, girls come having been orientated to being friendly with books, they are going to do better in language arts. Not to mention, many studies in language showing that girls tend to have a kind of linguistic focus a little more than boys. So there has got to be things that are going to be assisting boys to develop that kind of thing. In the way our norms are in society. Many young men actually scoff at education. They scoff at speaking English. They scoff at doing things that are that would help in education because people think that these things are girly.
Mr. Wright also noted that some families spend more resources on educating girls than boys.
In the family generally, I think there are many parents, and especially depending on the types of family they get into, who are far more concerned with girls and schools than they are with boys and schools. So boys will be withdrawn much quicker than girls because there's this view that girls are going to have it rough and maybe boys can rough it out. And that is something that I do not think is going well for young men, and it is something that we ought to be looking into.
President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Lincoln Wright. In the meantime, social commentator Dr. Nadine Spence says work had started to reduce the educational gap between boys and girls. Dr. Spence says, for example, the education system has been making adjustments in marking the exam papers of boys due to the understanding that they develop at a slower pace. But Dr. Spence says it is clear that the preferential treatment is not reaping the results.
I don't know if it's based on research. I imagine it would be. There's already this policy position within the ministry that boys develop at a slower pace or perhaps later than girls. So they have already allowed for some of that consideration when scores are marked in PEP and so on. But so what we are seeing is that kind of preferential treatment that is allocated to boys is still not working, and it goes to two things, I think. For us to reconsider how the education system treats with boys versus girls.
Social commentator Dr. Nadine Spence. She was also a guest on the morning agenda. 110 new COVID cases have been reported in Jamaica. The infections were detected from 705 samples yesterday, resulting in a positivity rate of 16.4%. The Ministry of Health says one more person has died from COVID, increasing the death toll to 3,158. In the meantime, 98 patients are in hospital. 4 of them are severely ill and 1 in critical condition. And a new highly transmissible COVID-19 strain is raising concern among scientists as it spreads in the U.S. and India. According to an Associated Press report, the variant called BA.2.75 may be able to spread rapidly and get around immunity from vaccines and previous infection. It's unclear whether it could cause more serious disease than other Omicron variants, including the globally prominent BA.5. The Associated Press says this has fueled experts' concern that there is a large number of mutations spreading the latest new variant from earlier Omicron predecessors and mutations. In the region, St. Vincent and the Grenadine Teachers Union, SVGTU, has warned it will embark on radical action if teachers fired from their jobs last December over the COVID-19 mandate are not reinstated within 2 weeks. Speaking on a radio program, SVGTU President Oswald Robinson said the union is not backing down from its quest for the teachers to get back their jobs. Speaking on another radio program, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said his government would consider rehiring the teachers if there is no surge in COVID-19 cases this week. But Dr. Gonsalves said other issues, including the response of vaccinated teachers, parents of students, and the advice of the Chief Medical Officer and other government authorities would have to be taken into consideration. A Barcelona court has authorized an autopsy for former Angolan President Jose Eduardo dos Santos, who died on Friday after his family alleged a conspiracy to kill him. His daughter requested the autopsy. She said political enemies did not want him back in the opposition in next month's Angolan elections. Mr. Dos Santos, who was 79, was in Spain for medical treatment and died after cardiac arrest. After 38 years in power, he stepped down in 2017.